Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and I almost forgot when we were going to be recording this, but it happened anyway. So, welcome to the show, SavvyNik. You may know him from his YouTube channel. He's done quite a few videos. He's been doing YouTube, I think about as long as I have, actually. Maybe a little bit shorter. But yeah, you do Linux videos, and yeah, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, I'm SavvyNik, and thanks for having me on here, Brody. Yeah, I've been doing YouTube about 5 years, and kind of started on a whim. I saw that there was quite a bit of missing tutorials, specifically in like the server space of Linux, and I do it on the job a lot, so figured I could add that little tidbit to YouTube, and I just started recording videos and have been doing it ever since. I think I got like over 650 videos at this point.
I
And I
don't
just
like
keep
looking at the
cranking
number
them
on my
out.
channel because I upload daily.
Oh my gosh. I did that for a while, Brody, and I don't know how you do it. I see it and I see
Bulk
how much
recording.
content you pop out. What was that?
Bulk recording is how I do it.
Bulk. Okay. So you like do it in one session, you just like do a ton of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do one planning session, two recording sessions, and
Mhm.
then edit after that.
No, man,
Unless
you're
something
doing
is like really
fantastic.
crucial, and then I edit it like
Mhm.
as like straight away.
Sure, it makes sense. Yeah, I used to do that. I mean, if you like look way back in time,
Mhm.
I used to do it very similar to you, kind of like the bulk thing, right? Because I would think of like 6 topics I could talk about, and easily record in a tutorial type style video, knock them all out in one day, and then just, edit it a different day and stuff like that. But I got tired of that very quickly.
Right. I guess it sort of
But
depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like tutorial stuff, I can see getting boring like pretty quickly if you're doing
oh
that,
yeah.
but because now I do a lot more like news stuff, there is always
Hmm.
just something weird happening. Like usually, a lot of the time it'll be some like pretty normal stuff like, hey, there's some drama in like the Wayland project, or
Hmm.
hey, there's this one example that someone just sent me today that I am probably going to do a video on is Proton Mail Bridge. They depend on Qt,
Yeah.
but someone realized the package broke on Arch when they updated from 6.7 to 6.8 because it depends on Qt 6.4, which has been EOL for a year now. Like you'll
Hmm.
see stuff like that show up as well, and then there's like you'll have like some company that does like something crazy like I don't know if you've seen it, but there's been this blog post going around from a company called Malibu called Don't Support the Core Boot Project, where due to 3 bad interactions with some core boot developers, they decide to ban like 5 different countries from their shipping regions. And stuff
What?
like this, I don't get
That
bored
is
with
just
because it's just
wild.
always ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's helped me to at least
Mhm.
stay with it because, you know, uh, I mean, I have a job during the day, so that's kind of why I had to cut back on the videos.
Right, right.
But yeah, the news stuff really helps, and it is wild. And I feel like personally, I feel like the community's gotten a little more open to kind of listening to the news of Linux
Mhm.
in the last few years. It's not that it's become more drama filled. It's just I think people have opened themselves up to kind of exploring Linux and hearing about the news
Mhm.
because I remember trying that at the beginning and it was really hard. I just couldn't get many people to follow, but the tutorials were always where people would come back.
Mhm.
And I don't know about your videos, but the news cycle type videos that I do, those are kind of hit hard and fast,
Mhm.
and they trickle out pretty quick.
Right.
But like the tutorial style videos, I mean, I have, well, I think Ubuntu like 2004 or 2204, one of the two. I mean, that one's gotten like 600,000 views and it just keeps chugging along. And it's just funny that all the weird intricacies of the Linux world.
Yeah, there's a dual boot one you have here from 2 years ago with 674,000.
Yeah,
There's
that would have
a
been it.
step-by-step guide for 2204, which is 266, and yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you mean here.
Yeah, those are the ones that end up going to the top. It's kind of funny. I mean, it takes years.
Right.
That one, I think, I mean, took over 2 years to do, but um, it's quite interesting in our kind of space how you have tutorial videos and then you have the drama slash news, I like to
Mhm.
call it. But I personally nowadays the news is really taking over.
Yeah, I do have a lot of tutorial videos that I've made in the past, and some of those are like at the absolute top. Like one that is not a good video, but because there was just so little content on it,
Mhm.
setting up multi-monitors with X-Render, that I think is like
That's awesome.
second or third top video. The
No
absolute
way.
top one, I'm pretty sure, is from the LTT Linux challenge, which, you know, that's a special kind of news video. That
Sure,
one still gets used
sure.
today because, you know, the LTT video still gets used today. But
Mhm.
most things, you know, are not gonna survive like that. Oh no, so top one is an LTT Atlas OS video. I thought the other one was higher. Then
Yes.
the second one is like it's news, but it's also historical news. I find the historical videos also sort of act the same way
Mm.
as tutorial stuff, where
Mhm.
people will always go back to, you know, the history of Wayland or the history of
Sure.
X11
Yeah.
because it's not
Yeah. Yeah.
timely in the same way. Um,
Mhm.
my second top video is the can't print on Tuesday bug. If you know about that one.
Can't. I think I did watch this one. I can't remember quite what it
Uh,
was about.
there was an issue with the it wasn't with the cups, but it was with, I think, file.
Uh-huh.
When it was trying to detect if a file was a PostScript file, if it had a
Okay.
certain string in it, it
Yeah.
detected it as a different kind of file, but that, oh no, I think it was parsing maybe the date string weirdly, and any
Mhm.
Tuesday it was detecting it as a different type of file instead of a PostScript file, leading to those prints breaking only when the PostScript file was generated on a Tuesday.
Wow. That's so intricate.
But this is a bug from like
That's
10
wild.
years ago, right?
Right.
So
Right.
like it hasn't got that same timely, you know, that timeliness to it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of timeliness, what about the real time kernel patch
Mm.
becoming, well, added directly into the kernel now instead of having to patch it from source yourself? I think you have a couple videos on that, I think.
Yeah, I did make a
Um,
video on that one because I'd heard about the real-time kernel stuff like a while back, but I never
yeah,
actually bothered to like talk about it. So
sure.
there's a lot of these topics where, you know, you'll hear about them and you're like, okay, I want to, like, especially if it's like a big topic. Like, I'm sure you
Hmm.
feel like this about, because you've uploaded like a 4 hour tutorial on, was it C++ recently?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you think about that topic and you're like, okay, I want to do this, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yes, yes, and that's exactly it. One of the things that, well, I find interesting about the YouTube ecosystem in general is um, the how much you really have to stay within your niche.
Mhm.
Because I personally have a lot of interest when it comes to computing in general, right? From programming, engineering to Linux, all sorts of other things in between as well. But I've found that without focusing on it, focusing on, let's say, Linux as a niche. As soon as I start venturing out to things like C, C++, if I'm not tying it back into Linux, it just doesn't perform at all.
Mhm.
And it's not that I necessarily care for it to perform. It's that I the message from the channel is really to just get more people into Linux and just in the get Linux in the hands of people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and since it kind of like doing a C++ dev on Linux erodes that user base, it pushes me away from even doing it. So
Mhm.
that's one thing I wish that YouTube would improve on. But like kind of back on the real time kernel, why I want to talk about that briefly is
Mhm.
I spent about 6 months when I was this was probably like 7, 8 years ago,
Mhm.
really diving deep into the real time Linux kernel, and specifically when it was just patching the kernel to become real time, and then trying to use it as real time. And what I learned over those 6 months was how um, how there's really two like versions of, we'll call it real time Linux.
Mhm.
Well, not real time Linux, real time. So there's a soft and a hard real time. I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but hard real time is something extremely predictable. I mean, the system completely fails if it's not hard real time. Versus soft real time, it wants to remain predictable, but if there are other processes that kind of get in the mix and try to preempt something, it is possible that they don't actually preempt whatever process is happening, and then you are actually not running real time, basically. So again, soft, hard real time. And what I learned from about 6 months of doing work on Linux is that it's soft real time, and I could not use it for my industrial processes that I was trying to use it for. So I spent, I don't know how many hours glued to these books, on hardware programming and real-time programming and real-time operating systems, and I'm trying to get this damn thing to work, and it was such a failure. I mean, it was the biggest failure I've ever had. My boss is just like, "What's taking so long?" I'm like, "I don't know. It says it's hard real time." There was barely any documentation on it in the past, but I'm like, I'm trying, and I'm running the hardware, and I'm running my I/O, and it's coming out, and I got an oscilloscope hooked up and whatnot, and I'm just looking at this, and nothing's making sense. And then finally one day I just learned, I'm like, I know what the problem is here. It's soft real time. So it's one of those things that I really love Linux because you get to learn stuff like that. Like I got so deep in the kernel, for that time. And it was one of the reasons, and that's kind of why I brought it up, is why I love Linux so much is, I've spent intimate time with it. But anyways, I just, I saw real-time kernel popping up again, and I made a video not too long ago, I think, on the real-time kernel and trying to explain that same thing that I'm trying to explain now. But it's a crazy world that we live in as far as Linux goes. I love it.
Well, by Linux being open source and by a lot of the software we run being open source, it gives you that opportunity to actually dig into it. And if something is not behaving in a way that you would expect it to, you can actually go and find that out. Like, if you're dealing with something weird happening on Windows, you can see what documentation they have. You can throw input at it and see what output comes out, but you can't really dig into what it's doing internally to really know exactly how things are working. So if something is weird, you kind of just have to accept that it's weird and just deal with it. Yep.
And that you bring that point perfectly home, because that's the reason I do all my dev on Linux is specifically that. I mean, it's just so much easier to get into the system, and you figure out you're not sandboxed. I mean, on every other system, you're sandboxed. You got your little toys, and you're in the sand, and you're playing with them, and nothing outside of that's gonna, influence you. But here, you can just get in and do whatever you want. So, yeah, no, that's a good point.
This isn't like a value add to everyone, sure, but like if you are someone in that development space, especially when you're doing some of this really high-end development or very niche specialized development where you need a system to behave in a very specific way, having that level of freedom can actually make a lot of sense. Now, it could also make a lot of sense to have a system that is proprietary, but is just built from the ground up for use cases like that. So it's not like, it's not necessarily that Linux is the only thing that can do this, but at least in those cases where you do want to change things, doing so with something that is completely open is a lot easier to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what is your actual history with Linux? Like, when did you start using Linux? What distro did you start with? And yeah, we'll go from there.
Sure, I'm kind of boring when it comes to that, to be honest.
Is it going to be Mint?
No, it's Ubuntu.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, Ubuntu, and specifically, probably like, 15, 16 years old. It's been a while. And it was really just dabbling into some like private servers.
Do you remember which version of Ubuntu?
Let's see.
If you want to age yourself.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's probably like 10.
Okay.
Is that right? Yeah, it was pretty early on. I don't know. Ubuntu 8.04, 8 probably.
804. Okay, very early on.
And let me see what that one's called. Is that Hardy?
Hardy Heron.
Okay, yeah, that would have been it. That looks very familiar. Yep. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, private servers. So I got involved in private servers. There was this game I was obsessed with when I was a child, and I tried hosting my own private server. Realized that it wasn't happening on Windows, so I just kept chugging along. It was painful, but I figured out how to get it over ported to Linux, and then I started running it with my friends. And ever since then, I knew about it. And then there was kind of I want to say a period of, we'll call it divorce, where I didn't use Linux at all. I went back to Windows. I was in college. A lot of my school programs and in engineering required, having a Windows computer because of the software.
Yeah.
But eventually, I came back and did like a minor in computer science. And one of my professors, really goofy guy, loved Linux. I mean, obsessed. And the first thing he taught us was how to use VI for whatever reason. He's just like, we have these servers in house and they run Linux and we're going to use VI. And then he just tortured us for like, I don't know, 3 weeks. And I'm like, I'm not learning anything about computer science here, but whatever. I'm learning how to use a text editor. And eventually I just got obsessed with it and started installing it on my own, on virtual machines, and then, dual booting and just moving on from that. And then, over the years, I've experimented with, you name it, I've tried it. You know what I mean? Like specifically now I'm running, still Ubuntu. Again, I'm very plain, but on the side I have like my other distro is Arch Linux with Xvara, it's Xnomads. Oh, sorry, it's Xmonad, but it's Xvara's dot files.
Oh,
so
okay.
I did a video on this, and they're absolutely beautiful. I can send you a link, of course, but I can even pull it up if you want.
AXARVA. Okay, yep. I found them.
AXARVA. Xvara. And
ooh.
It is beautiful. I've always loved this. I've had it for 4 years now or something like that. Just running in the background. I did a video on it too, so if anyone wants to install it, I mean, I do it from scratch. I start from installing Arch to the manual way to putting the dot files on to getting everything ready. The only thing is it kind of stopped development, so not all resolutions are supported on it. That kind of sucks, but if you have 1920 by 1080, you're good to go.
Yeah, don't use anything besides that. don't go above 1080p. I've had this discussion before, but like I genuinely hate unless you need scaling for the sake of accessibility, just don't bother with scaling at all.
I'm 100% with you. I am, again, just very simple. Two 1920 by 1080 monitors. They're probably 21 inch. And
small ones.
Yeah, small ones. I don't need anything large. And what else? I mean, my computer right now, the main one I'm using, I got like a couple of them just hanging around in a little server or whatever, but the main one I'm using is, I think it's got a 1660 Super in it, NVIDIA, and it's got a terabyte, and it's an AMD Ryzen 3700X, I think.
Okay.
I'm not even sure anymore. It's been forever since I've opened it up. So I custom built that one, and then I've just used it for the last 5 or 6 years. And what I'm very interested in, I just ran a couple polls back to back the last couple days. And I don't know how often you do that on your channel. But
not super often, but I do see
I think you should try, Brody. You get some wild like insights into just the world of, well, not only Linux, but like computers and the people who are listening to you, right?
I have done ones in the past about like, Wayland usage and things like that, but I haven't done any really recently.
Okay. So the recent ones I've done were on just like little goofy things. So like how much storage space does your system have?
Mhm.
And it is wild how many people have over like 2 terabytes of storage space. It
Mhm.
blows my mind. I don't have a single computer in here that has over a terabyte. I was like blown away. 38% of people have over 2 terabytes.
Well, how
And then I
much
told
is
them,
a? Let me just go on with that. I'm just gonna check how much drive prices are.
sure. And I started like scanning through the comments because I love reading the comments.
Mhm.
There's so many people with like over 10 terabytes just hanging out on their
Okay,
computer.
those are not normal people.
I'm like, how many of you guys have? That's like 10 terabytes, 72 terabytes. I mean, like, just insane amounts of storage space. And then previously to that, there was a lot of people with 14, which was really weird too. I don't know how they got 14, but before that one, I got even more responses on the RAM. And what do you think is like, the highest?
Well, I actually voted.
You already looked at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, 16 gigs, which I kind of knew, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
That makes sense.
That's still the recommendation, like amongst like gaming audiences. So that would make sense.
Yeah, and anytime I look at like the Steam survey, it's always like 16's kind of like taking the cake, but 32 gigs is right behind it at 33%. That blew my mind.
I think is due to the move into DDR5. 32 is basically becoming like the new baseline of like the minimum they'll even give you without like going out intentionally going and finding less.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's something you probably wouldn't have noticed unless you actually were looking at PC hardware like recently. I've been like in the market to upgrade my system. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that as well.
Oh, gotcha. So what are you getting then? Spill the beans.
I'm probably gonna upgrade to like a 7800 X3D or whatever it is. The generation before the new generation coming out of AMD CPUs.
Yeah.
My GPU's fine. I've recently bought a new one, a 6750 XT, but I'm currently running a 3600X, so upgrading my CPU is going to involve a motherboard, CPU, and RAM upgrade.
Oh wow!
So it's going to be a bit.
It all. Well, at least you're gonna have a powerhouse. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. As for drive prices, if you just want to go mechanical hard drives, this is Australian pricing, so US pricing is like
30% more.
No, it's US pricing is a lower number, so like 75% of this.
Yeah.
So a 4 terabyte mechanical hard drive is $169, so like 120, 130-ish US.
What?
If you want to go NVMe, $159 for a 2 terabyte SSD.
Jeez, it's gotten cheap.
Yes, it has.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't realize that. Again, it's been like 6 years since I've touched a new computer. Funny enough, the last computer I bought, I specifically looked for for the same exact setup that I had because I was like, I know it works. I don't have to change anything. I've been programming on that environment for quite a while, and it's been getting me through the rendering and everything's fine on that. So I was like, I'm just gonna buy the exact same thing. It cost me $350, which is really cheap. Yeah, I was surprised. It's what's it called? I think it's a Dell
Optiplex?
Optiplex? Yeah, Optiplex. I don't even know what version it was. I just like picked it up at the local computer hardware center.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Dude, I'm running on a potato, I know.
Let's see. I'm just looking at random Dell Optiplex prices here. This is a Dell Optiplex 7070 i5 9500T, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs storage, 400 Australian. You know what? This is actually a really good deal.
There we go. That's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, except mine was refurbished. Is that one refurbished?
I don't. Maybe? Is it?
I would hope. I mean,
Yeah, at a
being
price
that
like
old.
that, I would assume so.
Yeah. No, that's nice, man.
I've only ever like built my own PCs because like I've always
Uh-huh.
had like an interest in gaming. I've never really
Mhm.
looked at like what you can get if you want to just grab one of these like, you know, basically computers that like an office is going to buy a
Right,
hundred
right.
of them and just stick
Right.
under a desk.
Yep, that and I used to be the same way as you.
Mhm.
I used to build my own and then time ran out.
Right, right.
So I was like, I'll just pick something up, but I will in the future again. It takes a while. I don't know about how long it takes you, but it definitely takes hours if you want to do it right.
Yeah, I'm very paranoid I'm going to do something wrong, so it's usually like a day process for me.
Gotcha. Yep. Yep, same here.
The
I don't
last
want a
time
bent pen or
when
something.
I built this system, it
Hmm.
was just before COVID, so that was just before like the prices went up.
Yeah.
Um, I remember seeing my old GPU, which was like a RX 570, I think it was, and I bought it for
Mhm.
like 300 Australian. I could have
Yeah.
sold it during that for like 600. Like,
Oh,
because that was like COVID price raise and like the crypto boom as well. So people were buying up
uh-huh.
any GPU they could find.
Oh my god. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you should have thought about going
I needed a
without a
GPU
GPU
though.
for Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough one. So what do you use for editing?
Caden Live, it's not great.
Caden Live. Yeah, it's not. I've tried it before, man.
What do you use
I
yourself?
DaVinci Resolve.
I'm
And
hearing a lot more people saying DaVinci recently.
yeah, I love it. Especially with like 19, they've
Mhm.
introduced a bunch of like audio filtering and whatnot by
Mhm.
itself, so you can normalize audio and whatnot. You
Mhm.
just click a button and it does it, and it does a good job.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, I mean, it's got all the tools that you can imagine, but the pain in the ass is getting it on a freaking Linux computer. Um, I've only successfully done it on like I just did it the other day, finally on Pop OS.
Mhm.
It was on the new Cosmic Rust desktop. So it's 24.04 pop,
Mhm. Mhm.
and turns out there was some packages that got all screwed up in the libraries, and had to kind of revert some stuff. But
Mhm.
I finally got it running. I'm going to do a video on that one. But I've had to have a Windows backup the entire time just because of DaVinci Resolve. It's really annoying.
Yeah, I had meant to try DaVinci like a long, long time ago. A few years back, I did a series on like Linux video editors. So I did a video on like Caden Live, Olive, Flowblade, Shotcut, all that stuff. And I was gonna do
Hmm.
a video on DaVinci. I tried to
Hmm.
install it, and the package wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Now, to be
Yep.
fair, on Arch, like DaVinci's Linux package at the time was built around CentOS, I believe.
Yeah. Yep. And it still is.
Sure. Okay.
Well, maybe they moved to Rocky. I don't know.
That makes sense. But that's obviously like a slower moving system than Arch is, and
Hmm.
Arch probably the package versions because I think you can get it working on Arch consistently, like at the start of each month or something like that, before the packages diverge too much. But
Hmm.
any other time, like you're in for an interesting ride. At the
Oh,
time, things
100%.
like DistroBox didn't exist, so setting up a
Hmm.
Docker container would have been like more annoying to do so. But now that's
Hmm.
probably how I'd approach it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they still have an ISO option where you can, I think it's Rocky. I'm not
Hmm.
100% sure anymore, but you can slap it on and it's whatever.
Hmm.
But to get it working on anything else, and their documentation is, in my opinion, terrible.
Hmm.
Um, it's a pain. It's a
Right.
complete pain. You still have to like do that, whatever that make deb pack. I don't know what it's called. There's some
Hmm.
script you got to run, and it's got to make a deb package out of it, and then it's got to do a whole bunch of stuff, add extra libraries, and then finally maybe works if you do the right dance. But yeah, the only thing I've ever had success on is Debian.
Hmm.
That's it.
Just put
That's
it
it.
in
And
Docker
then Pop
container.
OS recently.
Just put it in a
Yeah,
Docker
no, you're
container.
right. I just like trying to get it work natively, on the without containerization or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I like pain, so.
So,
Anyways,
what is it about DaVinci that like is actually why does it seem like everybody is using DaVinci right now? I've spoken to so many people who otherwise would be completely like FOSS people, but then they're like, yeah, no,
yeah.
DaVinci, I just have to use DaVinci.
I just think it's the other options you have if you're just doing everything completely open source. I mean, like Kden Live, let's be honest, I don't think it's that great. I mean, it's just lacking features and it's goofy, clunky. I don't know how to explain it.
It is better than Windows Movie Maker.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I didn't realize we were making that comparison.
Like of the options, it's probably the best open source one, I would say.
Yes, I'll give you that for sure. But when you compare it to DaVinci Resolve and just the amount of, I think it's just how fluid it is. It just like runs flawlessly. You know what I mean? It never crashes. It never gives me issues. There's never stuttering. The codecs are all there. I mean, it just works right out of the box. I don't have to think about it. And I'm a very strong proponent of, the stability aspect of it. And I think that's what it's given me. And quite honestly, it's probably just because I started with DaVinci Resolve when I first started. If it would have been Adobe Photoshop, Premiere, whatever you call it, Premiere or whatever it's called. Yeah, I'm sure it would have been that too. But when I'm making that transition over to, Linux more and more and finally, full on Linux, well, I probably would have stopped using Premiere, but I was already using DaVinci, and I don't know why other people do. I mean, you got any ideas?
I look, my assumption is just because they've tried Kden Live enough and they're like, yeah, no. I have this issue right now. Actually, there are two really dumb issues with Kden Live that I'm running into. One of them seems to be a regression. So, there is in Kden Live, like any sensible video editor, you can like rescale the video. So even though the video source is 1080p, you could output it at 4K, right? Completely normal feature. The problem is the transform effects don't respect the resize. So if you resize horizontally, not vertically, vertically is fine, but horizontally, it will create a square in the top left corner of where 1080p would have been and put everything in there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a little goofy.
Yeah. Also with the rescale, sometimes it just renders a green line at the bottom of the video, which is also fantastic.
I'm sure you love dealing with it. I did think of one other thing that it's kind of newer, but in the studio version of DaVinci Resolve, they have the ability to just cut out basically all the silent parts and get a transcription and just, by the transcription edit instead of having to even like listen. I think it's annoying to listen to my own voice. So where I can tune it out, it's nice. But, there's just those like little features that they've added that, open source is just, it's going to take a while to catch up to.
Right. Like you need something like Blender, right? Like, Blender has a video editor, but Blender's video editor is not good. But like, I mean, something at the quality of Blender for 3D modeling, or something I know like Krita isn't perfect, but as a drawing program, people like include it in the discussion with like Clip Studio Paint, Paint Tool Sci, Photoshop. Like Krita is part of that discussion, even if it's not like everybody's first choice. We just don't have something like that for the video editor space.
Well, looks like we should make some.
But there was a project that was like that was trying to do that. Olive was being developed, but it was like mainly being written by one guy, and he had like another job, and he was a YouTuber as well. And the project, just it's difficult to. It's difficult to build something like that to the point where other people want to get involved. And when you have a project like that, it's not like a terminal or a text editor where it's a fairly easy thing to like get involved in. A lot of a video editor, most people are not even going to be able to touch. They can maybe deal with, buttons and UI stuff, but how do you implement, I don't know, a noise suppression filter, or how do you implement a blur filter, and like different kinds of blur, right?
Right. Yep.
Most people just don't have that knowledge.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just codecs alone, trying to manage everything. I mean, it's a big undertaking. Yeah. I mean, for what it is, Kden Live is it is great. When you stop and think about it, and you know, you're talking about all these things, and the team has been able to actually get something out there that's useful, that's open source, and you know, they definitely deserve to be you know, thanked for that. And it's only going to get better. You know what I mean? It's not like you can't use it or it's unusable or anything like that. I don't want to say that at all. I just think it's the creature comforts that come with some of the other video editors, and specifically just making the video editing process go a little faster. I think that's really it for most people.
What about making thumbnails? What do you use for that? Because I use GIMP.
Do you? I used GIMP for the longest time, but I finally gave up on it. I paid $13 a month for that Canva, and slap stuff together. It's all web-based, 100%, and I think I've probably made the last 300 thumbnails on that. It's super easy. I mean, if you haven't given it a try, Brody, I mean, it's worth the money. It's just so fast. I don't know how long you typically spend on your thumbnails. You probably spend a lot more time than I do, but
most of my time is just thinking of what I want to put in there. Like, it's not. I've gotten GIMP down to a point where, like, I have every action that I want to do just hotkeyed, so it's not really that big of a deal for me. If I was to go to Canva, it would basically take me as long because I'm still thinking about what I want to be on the thumbnail.
I gotcha. Well, you haven't got to the point where you're kind of like. Yeah, well, you have. I know your thumbnails. Where it's like you kind of have a template.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got your text on the left side. You got a picture of yourself. You got some sort of color matching going on for most of it. So, yeah, once you kind of get that down, it becomes a lot easier. And that's how it got to be with GIMP as well. Like when I was using GIMP, I finally had like a little template going on, and it was much easier. But Canva. What it does for me is there's so many, like, they call it elements, but you can just use elements directly from like you click a folder and it just has millions of little graphics and whatnot, and you just throw them into your, you know, whatever file, and you can use it. And the other thing that's really nice, and is the real reason I left GIMP, was just being able to do this across multiple systems. You know, it's all web based. You just log on there and you can access it from anywhere. So it syncs up and all that fun stuff. I that's the real reason I'm even bother.
Well, with GIMP, like, there's a lot of it's getting better now, but there's a lot of like basic text features that are missing. For example, like, you know, being able to do drop shadow, you have to like a proper there is a drop shadow option, but to have it actually be a drop shadow, you have to like tweak a bunch of options to make it even look like it. There are some effects that you can add which now have been merged into the main branch of GIMP to actually do, you know, a proper glow and outline and things like that. Those are in GIMP 3 now. But for the longest time, I've had to do some, like, weird, hacky, like, messing with effects and, like, saving effects in a very specific way to even get close to doing that.
Yeah. And you kind of reminded me of one of the torture points when I was using GIMP for the longest time. It was specifically the drop shadow because, well, I think it was more, for me, it was a drop shadow, quote unquote, but it was kind of like an outline, right? So I'd have to take the text, I'd copy it twice, and then I'd offset it myself, change the color, and then that would be my drop shadow. You know what I mean? Like, that's the goofy stuff that you just reminded me of it. That's all. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I used to do that as well before I figured out how to make the effects kind of behave like I want them to behave.
That's funny.
Usually. Usually they behave. Sometimes they just, I don't know, there's like a setting you've turned off somewhere and now things just don't work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what about the layers?
What do you mean, what about the layers?
Um, well, the layers always really confuse me on GIMP.
Mm.
I could never get layers to like properly work like they're supposed to,
Mhm.
overlay stuff basically.
Mhm.
It's just, I don't know. I could never get used to it. I was used to Photoshop's method, but I don't know. Do you run into any issues with it?
Not really at this point. Obviously, in GIMP 2, you have the issue where you couldn't select multiple layers, which... Fantastic. GIMP 3 has that. Finally. It's caught up to Photoshop from 2002. You can, like, move layers around and delete layers. The one that I really like is non-destructive effects, where you can apply effects to a layer, but it doesn't modify the layer directly, so you can actually turn the effects off.
Yeah.
Like, GIMP is such, like, both GIMP and Kdenlive are really good projects that are really impressive for what they are, but I wish there was so much more.
Sure.
But...
No, that all makes sense. When is 3 coming out? They've been saying it for the last,
well,
I don't know, 6 months?
Yeah, quite a while now. It was supposed to be released in May this year, because there was like a graphics conference they wanted to showcase it at. It didn't happen then. Recently they hit the GIMP 3 RC1, so hopefully before the end of the year, but if it doesn't get done before December, December's a busy time for everyone, so maybe January. January is my prediction.
That's a good prediction. I'm thinking about the same, if not spill over into May of next year.
I hope not. Well, I'm just running the I'm running the flat pack for the daily release and the nightly release. So like for me, it's
all good for you.
Got a couple of minor issues, but for the most part, it's pretty good. For the most part.
Well, speaking about thumbnails, then, all right. Did you start using the ABC thumbnail testing on YouTube?
Oh, yeah. I tried that out for a couple of videos. I haven't extensively used it though. What about yourself?
Yeah, I've been using it since I came out for me, and I want to say the last probably like 40 videos. I've been using it on every single one, and it's interesting. I mean, you can tell what I've noticed on mine at least. And that's why I wanted to ask you if you had noticed anything, but I don't know how long you've been using it, but it is definitely going after watch time. It does not care about click-through rate at all.
Okay.
It is like just hyper focused on the fact that, okay, this is how this thumbnail was able to get somebody in to watch as long as they could, which is so interesting to me, because for a while there, I was like, I kept pushing my click-through rate up, and that seemed to get decent views in and whatnot. But it's kind of fascinating on the back end that they're really hyper focused on the watch time. So what I've noticed is in videos that I do some thumbnails on, I've had to kind of like do the initial set, which is the watch time, to me anyway, comes from like the users who resonate the most with that particular subject, that are an audience of your channel. So people who follow the channel religiously, who interact and all that stuff, they're the ones who bring a lot of watch time in. So they'll come through, they'll watch it, but then you're really left to no one. You know what I mean? Because those people are very niche. They're very hyper focused on that subject, which is great. I love, you love those people. But when you want to push it to the broader audience, I've almost had to now make like 2 sets of thumbnails. One for that initial release, and then one after, let's say 4 days or something like that. That is a more broader kind of just a better for click through, let's say.
Right.
So it's interesting because it makes things easier to hone in on what's makes for good watch time, but not necessarily what's good for click through. So I've just been interested in it. Overall, I think it's a okay thing.
I think it's an interesting tool. I definitely need to work with it more, because I used it back when it first came out, but I just haven't really bothered with it after that point. I think it is interesting that it does focus on the watch time, though, because I remember there was, at least for a while, there was the idea that click-through rate was, like, really, really important on videos, but it seems like the... Well, I guess you can also tell this with, like, really big channels, like, I don't know if you ever heard about the way that MrBeast handled, like, ad reads, where he had a bar that moved really quick at the start and then slowed down, like, halfway through the ad. And stuff like that is to just get people watching the video longer, because, you know, they think the ad's going to be over in the next second, but it keeps going further and further and further. I've noticed that I've had videos that, like, do really well, but the click-through rate was actually relatively low. But I look at the watch time, like, my average watch time is around the 7.5 minute mark, which is way better than it used to be, and I have noticed that has really affected the channel. But, like, those videos that do really well, like, they'll be, like, the 8-minute or the 9-minute watch time on a, you know, 14-minute video. I don't know how the magic black box of YouTube functions. I can just throw input at it and see what comes out.
Exactly. And that's all we do. I mean, it's signaling something to us, obviously, right? Like, they want you to focus on watch time. They don't care about any. That's the biggest metric, period.
Well, watch time is also tangentially linked to ads, right? Like, if they watch past the midpoint, there's going to be mid-roll ads.
Absolutely. Yep. So it makes business sense for YouTube to do that. I mean, yeah. No, I'm complete agreement. It's just interesting how they rolled it out, and that's what they're sticking to. And I've had to adjust for that, at least. I know that, because my click-through rates were better, quite honestly, before. But now I'm getting more watch time, so looks like that's what they want me to focus on.
Yeah, if at the end of the day more people are seeing the videos, like, whatever the reason for it, like, the goal is to get as many people to, like, see the information as possible. Maybe you don't really care if the video does super well, but, like, you want people to get that information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you also want to maintain an audience. You know, that's part of this whole thing, because, well, let's face it, either we burn out, we stop posting videos, or our audience burns out and stops watching the videos. And, you know, you want to keep refreshing not just the audience and holding on to the people that you can hold on to, but overall, I feel like over the last few years, it's just been a little harder to get people to hit that subscribe button. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the next, I don't know, 5 years or so, because I feel like it's all just starting to roll into less community, more algorithm based driven community, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, that's how, like, TikTok works, right? Where TikTok, you don't really have an audience. Your goal on TikTok is for every video to go viral, because if your video does not go viral, people are not going to see the video.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just weird, because I feel like YouTube is they're sending mixed signals a little bit, because they're focusing on things like community posts. You know, they of course have shorts, but they've, you know, kind of backed off and got back on, and they just keep changing it. Like, now they're rolling out 3-minute shorts. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did see that.
Like, you know, they're just, like, throwing darts at a wall, but you know, they're, even to this day, I mean, the bulk of it is long form video content. You know, that's their bread and butter. So it's you know, that sort of algorithm works really well on TikTok, right? Where you're watching videos that are really quick, so you're scrolling through, blah, 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 just trying to, you know, pass some time, versus, you know, YouTube, you're devoting time. It's like they've been pushing their television app a lot lately, because they're getting more and more, like, you know, regular people who watch television move over to watching YouTube instead of the television. So it's an interesting little battle, I think, they're having internally, trying to figure out which way to go with stuff, but I don't think they're going to do a good job if they're like completely saturated. We've seen it with live, for example. I don't know if how much you've done the live stuff, but I think they've done an abysmal job with the live.
I usually stream on my gaming channel twice a week, and then every so often I stream on the main channel.
Gotcha. Yeah, I tried it for a while. I mean, I was doing it every Sunday for probably a year, and I just that algorithm really needs to be fixed. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah. Well,
everyone cracks me up.
YouTube's live stuff just doesn't make any sense because the videos. Okay, if you want to find live content on YouTube, I actually don't know where you go unless you're already subbed to a channel. Like, I legitimately could not tell you where on the website you can even find live content.
Yeah.
And I don't think YouTube knows where you can find it either. Because they used to have, like, they tried to do a Twitch-like thing where they had, you know, like, a live shelf, and they have things in there, but the content that was in there was completely unrelated. Like, you'd have, here's some Minecraft streamer next to, here's US politics next to a beauty channel. Like, none of this content has anything to do with each other.
Yeah. That's the exact same issue I have with it all. That live's just wild.
I think Twitch has a lot of problems, right? Like, I don't think anyone's going to deny that Twitch has issues, but at least the way they handle live content is better. It's not perfect. Sure. I think Twitch also has issues where Twitch is very top heavy because the default way that streams are sorted is by the number of views. So naturally, more people are going to click on, I think when you go to the page, you can see the first 2 rows. Naturally, people are going to click on something in those first 2 rows, and usually they gravitate towards the top one because the top one has the most views, therefore the top one is probably going to be the best content, right? Like, that's naturally, if you've not seen a channel before, that's what you would assume. But at least it's better than live content being completely undiscoverable.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Yeah, they have it figured out when it comes to like the kind of, I'll call it the algorithm of the live stream over there on Twitch, but on YouTube, again, I just think they're just focused on too many things. I mean, videos, shorts, posts, communities, memberships.
Do they still have stories? Because they had that for a while.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know if they removed it from the back end or not.
Because they were trying to copy Instagram. They introduced
podcasts recently too.
Yeah, they did. Well, to be fair, YouTube has had podcasts on the platform for a while anyway. So it kind of just makes sense. Because a podcast is basically just like a special kind of playlist that... I don't even know what making it a podcast playlist does, actually.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the point.
Like, on this channel, I have a podcast playlist. Yeah, I don't know what is special about it at all.
That's exactly the problem.
Let's see. Are YouTube stories still... YouTube... What do they even call them?
I don't know, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mid last year, they got rid of them. There you go.
Okay. So another thing they just threw out.
Yeah, because like the reason they did that is because Snapchat is what started it. Snapchat was massive, and then Instagram started doing it, and Facebook, because they're the same company, started doing it. I think Twitter did them. Maybe they did. I don't know. But YouTube was like, okay, well, stories are big, so that means everyone's... Did you know Twitch has stories?
No.
Yeah, no one does. They only tell you about it. Like, the only reason people ever make a story on Twitch is when you first become an affiliate, one of the, like, the affiliate challenges, affiliate, like, this will boost up your channel, is, like, make a story. And that's the only time anyone ever makes one. Like, if you go to the stories feed, every single story is... Twitch told me to make a story, so here it is.
Oh, it's funny. It's kind of its own like meme in the background.
But yeah, stories just they didn't really make sense. It goes back to what you're saying about they're not really sure what they want to do. Like, do they want to build communities? Do they want to just have viral content? Because in the context of a community, stories make sense. But do they make sense on YouTube when you already have community posts?
Right.
Not really.
I don't think so.
Because all it was is just a community post that gets deleted, and it's a video.
Right. Now, have you experimented at all with memberships?
I have them. I have not. I need to get emotes done, because now that I've got the Twitch affiliate stuff set up, and I know people actually use memberships over on Twitch, I need to get like emotes done and things like that, but not as much as I should have.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of like their competition against like Patreon.
Right.
And you know, I never used any of those, to be quite honest. I set up a page? Probably, because some people ask, but it's hard to spend the time, you know what I mean? So I never got into it much, but I never knew what kind of, I mean, on the background, YouTube takes, you know, quite a bit of the earnings. And it's interesting. I assume in the memberships they're not being they're probably taking quite a bit. You know what I mean?
I don't actually know what the cut is, because when you have memberships, they're just added on top of your ad revenue. Like, it's not a separate payment.
Right. But they got to have like I would assume a different percentage.
30% cut on that.
Dang. Okay. That's wild.
Isn't
you would?
What is? Wait, Twitch sub cut isn't?
I don't think
Twitch is 50-50 now.
On, wow.
Yeah.
50. Dang.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, but it didn't used to be. That was recent.
They used to have the same membership cut that YouTube has, which was 70-30, where they get 30. They get 30%, you get 70%. So
that's how they get away.
Yeah, they recently changed it because Twitch as a company has always been a weird one. Like, again, there's a lot of weird stuff about Twitch. Like, a lot of the memberships are based around Prime, but Prime is like the cost of a Twitch sub is basically half the value of Twitch Prime of like Amazon Prime. So it's basically just throwing free money at streamers, but no money is free. Like, the money has to come from somewhere, and Twitch needed to like make that money back because so much of the membership system, the sub system on Twitch is built around that monthly Prime sub.
That makes sense. I didn't realize all that lore.
But a lot of people are very annoyed, right? Because, you know, they suddenly went from a 70-30 cut to a 50-50 cut. So you lose like a giant chunk of money basically overnight.
Yeah, that's wild.
And if you were one of those if you were like a 500 viewer streamer, right? Like you're at the point where 500 viewers is like not much on YouTube, obviously, but on Twitch, like 500 live viewers, that's at the point where you're like not doing super well, but you could do Twitch full time if you wanted to. But if you went from a 70-30 to a 50-50, like you just went from making enough to all of a sudden like you have to go get another job now.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you about kind of to get back on Linux for a second, because I think I tangented us on YouTube.
That's so good. Tangents are perfectly fine here.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the Cosmic Rust desktop and what you think about it so far.
I think Cosmic is really cool. This is actually one of the streams I do frequently do, which is the like breaking Cosmic on stream, because it's an alpha and alphas have problems. I don't I don't know why, but it seems like Alpha 2, at least at this stage, is quite a bit buggier than Alpha 1. so they recently added in desktop icons, and
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a file that I have on my desktop that is causing problems, or what it is, but there is a number of hilarious problems with it where my icons just flash every couple of seconds, making them just really annoying to look at. But also the bigger problem, I can't use desktop icons because there is a memory leak. And on stream, I am so thankful I have a 48 gigabyte swap, which everyone bullies me for having. But it let me realize that I was using 70 gigabytes of RAM
Oh my
before
gosh.
my system was going to die running Cosmic.
Wow.
There
Wait a
seem,
second.
yeah, go on.
Wait. You just said there was a memory leak.
Mm.
How's that possible?
You can memory leak in Rust.
I'm just kidding, of course, but I
Yeah.
know there's gonna be people out there like
I
they're
wasn't
gonna be
aware of this. I thought this was part of like the
the
memory safety guarantee, so it wouldn't be surprising if other people brought it up as well. But no, you can definitely memory leak in Rust.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Again, when I was running the applet, the desktop icon applet, it was throwing warnings in my terminal. So it's very possible that one of the files I had was something that they just hadn't really considered being a file you would have. Like on my desktop, because I've got files there from when I was still in uni. There is I think it's called like users.dat. It's a like 18 megabyte text file full of database entries. It's somewhere around here. Movies, yeah, ratings.dat and users.dat. Yeah, so it's an 18 megabyte file, basically of colon separated values.
Gotcha.
So it's, what is that? A million entries. I have to open it in Vim, because I open it in pretty much any graphical text editor. It is not very happy about that. But it might have complained about that file, like maybe something they're doing, it sees that file and it freaks out, and for whatever reason, something breaks. Besides those issues though, like Cosmic as a core concept, I really like the idea of, because I pretty much grew up on Linux using, I guess not really grew up on Linux, like, I've been using Linux for a couple of years now, but when I started using Linux, I started on the window managers. I started on i3, BSPWM, things like that. So I like tiling. I really like tiling, but now that I've used KDE Plasma for a good couple of months at this point, I kind of appreciate having the desktop environment there as well. So having the best of both worlds, or at least hopefully long-term, that's what it's going to be. I think when it's ready, it's going to be really, really cool.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, I'm with
supposed
you
to
on
be
that.
ready, Carl thinks early next year. That's his prediction.
I could see that with the rate that they're going. I talked to there's a desktop developer called Michael as well, and
Mm-hmm.
talked to him quite a bit in the background just to get a feeling on things, new things that they're adding, changing, fixing, whatnot, and I kind of get the similar feeling just based on things that he's telling me as well, and which stage they're in and how they plan on getting to a beta and so on and so forth. But the big thing that I've been running into is the Bluetooth for me is a mess.
Okay.
I can't get, so for example, like my keyboard requires Bluetooth connection, then you got to type in a pin, right? And I can't get the pin dialog to ever pop up.
Mhm.
So I can't ever connect my keyboard to the desktop. I have to go find an old wired one to slap in there. But I remember like it wasn't it was Alpha 2
Mhm.
finally got it to where I could use Bluetooth period.
Mhm.
Before that one, in the first alpha, I was getting all sorts of like Bluetooth issues. I couldn't even get like the Bluetooth dialog to pop up. It was like doing all sorts of things, disappearing. It'd restart itself and all this fun stuff. So I love the fact that they're making such big progressions between these releases. You know what I mean? I mean, we're looking at stuff that's still, in complete development. And to watch and see them develop this over the last 2 years and how well it already works with multi-displays, with varying different graphics
Unless
cards
it's a
even,
vertical
like,
display.
unless it's a vertical display. I haven't tried it on a vertical display.
Vertical
You having
displays
issues?
work. Screenshots don't. They
okay.
are aware of this. They knew about it before Alpha 1. They were like, we'll deal with it eventually, but like it's not a big deal.
They're like, we'll get it for Brody eventually. Well,
a lot of developers also use them as well. Like they'll have their
I'm kidding,
text
I'm
editor
kidding.
on, like, they'll have like Vim or VS Code or whatever on a vertical display, or they'll have like a Slack or something open.
Yeah.
The issue is, it's an issue with the portal actually, where it doesn't really know how to handle the vertical display, and what it does is, so you know how when you like use a screenshot tool, like a lot of the GUI ones, they'll take a snapshot of the desktop and then you can like select things, right?
Yeah, of course.
So with vertical monitors, it has the image rotated as if it's a horizontal display, but also half the image is cut off, so you see the desktop and then just black.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. But this also affects capturing vertical displays with OBS as well.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it's a problem they know they need to deal with, but eventually. eventually, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just they've done a good job. I mean, the whole team at System 76. I recently visited there. I went in, when was it? It was December. No. February? Somewhere December to February of last year. I went out there. I was in Denver for a little bit, and I stopped by just to kind of see, how they manufacture their laptops and their computers and everything. And they got to, show me the desktop running on, some of their computers and whatnot. And I think they're building a pretty great ecosystem over there. I mean, it's amazing, and also just the team there really seems like tightly knit. It's kind of cool to see now. You don't see that as much nowadays, especially with like, I mean, even like the GNOME Foundation, for example. I mean, I think they got they have to have over 100 employees at this point.
The foundation? No, I think the foundations are quite a bit smaller than that.
Is it? Well, while you look that up, I mean, these guys are doing pretty amazing work.
4.
I mean, 4?
Yeah, like actual employees. They have a lot more volunteers.
Oh yeah, I guess you can. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. They have 200 volunteers, but like paid
yeah.
employees is.
Yeah, I said
4.
employees. My bad. I meant like just contributors. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. But well, System 76, I think they got like, it's probably like, I don't know, 40-ish. I don't know what they have, but
wonder if we can find it.
Yeah, I'd be interested too if you could find that number. But the fact that they're willing to like actually dedicate so much of their resources to that project just goes to show you how committed they are to Linux, because not a lot of, I mean, basically for-profit organizations are going to go, cast aside so many people to actually do that type of development. It's just, it's wild to me that they've been able to do this. And for such a, I mean, sure, 2 years doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're, taking away a lot of resources, you can just see Carl's devotion to this whole thing. He really thinks that there needs to be a better desktop environment out there, and that they can make a dent in this. And I see the vision, and I think they're going to do it because they've shown it over the last 2 years how well they've pulled it together. I personally believe that, but I guess we'll see. Hopefully it does get released by next year.
The number, they don't actually have like a proper number, but it seems to be around, LinkedIn's like 51 to 200 employees, which is like a big range. I'm
sure they got a picture somewhere.
I'm seeing somewhere close to 50-ish.
Okay.
Wait, that's a real. I just looked it up and I found a really old picture of Carl. Let's see if I can show you the picture. Copy that one. Where his hair was not yet Was not yet gray. Or, like, not yet fully gray.
That was before they started developing Cosmic.
Very much before they started developing Cosmic. But no, I really do like System 76. Everyone that I've spoken to there seems like genuinely passionate about what they're doing and seems like they really want to make this happen. But as for spending all this time working on Cosmic, like I get what you're saying, but it's not, at least from what I can tell, as crazy of an endeavor as you might think, because they have a lot of customers who are asking for like tiling and asking for these different features that they were able to build Pop Shell and bring that over, because they had previously had a lot of customers who were like, hey, can I use i3 with Pop OS, or can I use but back when they had Ubuntu on their system, can I use i3 with Ubuntu? And it just made sense for them to build Pop OS as a distro and build Pop Shell on top of that. But GNOME is GNOME, right? Like, GNOME has their own plans for what they want to do, and they may not, like, necessarily align with what System 76, like, and their customers actually want. So, building a platform from the ground up that you fully control, that you're not worried about the upstream just suddenly changing something and going more down a route of, like, less customization. Like, it makes sense. It might be a hard thing to justify, but long term, it's probably going to be a much better decision.
Yeah. And I'm in agreement with you on that, because I look at it from like the, let's just call it the Apple ecosystem type of thing, right? You know, they're building from the ground up, and it makes a lot of sense for them. If they're going to make a very, you know, well-known product that works, you know, seamlessly from hardware to software, you kind of, you have to go that route. You know what I mean? And Apple is a testament to that, right? They've done a fantastic job with, you know, just building this not only hardware architecture, but, you know, building up the software on top of that hardware. And it's, I mean, their System 76 is kind of doing a similar thing. I mean, you know, they're not as big or anything like that, but you know, when you look at it from that viewpoint, it makes sense, especially if you can sell it to people. I mean, shoot, if there's we don't know the background metrics. I mean, someone could have requested this and been like, yeah, I need Cosmic, you know, I want something built on Rust, Cosmic desktop. Can you guys build it for me? And I'll pay you gobs of money. I mean, we don't know that.
They don't need that. There are too many of their engineers I've spoken to who are like Rust diehard shills. They don't need anyone to pay them to do Rust.
No, they don't. They absolutely will.
Just speak to Jeremy Soller for 5 minutes about Rust, and you'll see why they don't need anyone to convince them about it.
Yeah, I think he's been pushing a lot of it.
Well, he's also a developer of a Rust operating system that he's been developing since the Rust beta, so...
Yeah, Redux, or what is it called? Yeah. I didn't get to meet him. I'm trying to think. I didn't get to meet Carl either. He was caught up in the mountains, I think. There was actually an avalanche while I was out there.
Okay.
And it kind of closed down one of the major highways, so it was hard to get back out. Luckily, I had got out of the mountains like a day before that, or else would have screwed up my entire schedule. But yeah, so I didn't get to meet Carl. I didn't get to meet Jeremy. But I did get to meet a lot of the background team and stuff like that. They're all very friendly, great group of people. They got a really cool kind of like setup too over there. I mean, Denver's a beautiful place, but also just kind of all this testing that they get to do in house. I was kind of surprised that, like for example, they had like this. They tend to build a lot of stuff in house. And one of them was a project, I can't remember who did it, but you know their new launch keyboards? Yeah. So they have this little setup with this pneumatic stamping pad, if you can imagine that, that beats the hell out of the keyboards. I mean, it just goes to town on it just to test to see like how long can it be like smashed down. And they just do it for like hours, but it's so violent. You just hear it in the background, just like slam, 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 slam. And I'm just like, what's going on over there? Like, oh, they're just testing some keyboards. I'm like, you do this to everyone? Yeah. So they wrote their little program out. Of course, on Pop OS, they got a little computer running that runs this little machine that's just over there slamming keyboards all day. And someone's job is to throw a keyboard in there and make sure it's going to work. It's just funny. All the little components and stuff. They're really, they got a really cool setup over there.
I would definitely like to go there at some point. It's just, you know, getting anywhere from Australia is expensive.
Yeah, expensive, and I've been to Australia once in my life. Yes, and that's never again.
The shortest one is a 24-hour flight.
Oh, yeah, but that's not with layovers.
I don't even know. I was gonna look it up. 2 stops?
No. How many?
2 stops by the looks of it.
3? Whoo! Yeah, you're looking at like a good 35-hour adventure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then I assume you've never been to the States.
No, I haven't, sadly. I would definitely like to at some point. There are a lot of people I know over there, and there's a lot of things I would like to do, but not yet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It'll have to happen eventually, but I haven't actually left like Australia before. I kind of want to do like a shorter flight outside the country before we do that. Like maybe I can do like New Zealand first.
Yeah, I was gonna start lighter. Yeah, that would suck. First flight you're on is like.
Well, I've done like
hours.
Local flights, right? Like I've gone to Queensland, I've gone to Melbourne, things like that. But like I've not gone outside of the country.
That's what I meant. Overseas, like,
right.
You know, first flight overseas is like 17 hours. That would be a nightmare. That's a nightmare. Oh,
yeah, but also it's just expensive as well, which is the other problem.
Yeah,
but
really
you know,
bad.
it is what it is. This is what I get for living on some island country in the middle of the ocean.
It's a beautiful country, though. I'll give you that.
Have you seen the? Have you ever seen the chart of like Australian population, like where the population lives?
Oh yeah, on the East Coast. I mean, it's like everything's on the East Coast, and I'm probably between like 2 or 3 cities: Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane.
There's a heat map that is actually like really cool. I'll show you this one. Where's Discord? There it is.
Yeah, I also saw that picture of Carl.
Oh yeah.
He's definitely changed. Oh, okay.
So the entire middle of the country is just like entirely empty except for a couple of like little red dots you can see in there. Those for the most part are like mining towns. But people just don't live in a lot of the country.
Yeah, no, I always knew. What in the world? Why is there little like red dots right in the middle? Isn't that like a desert?
Yeah, so those are just random mining towns.
Oh, those are the mining towns. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of like mining towns like closer to the coast as well, but or some of those are also I think some of those might be like Aboriginal communities as well.
Sure. That makes sense.
But
yeah, I've watched a few videos on just kind of the middle of Australia, and it's wild. It's wild. I didn't realize how many camels you had.
Yes. Camels are something that got imported because horses they die when it gets really hot.
Right.
So I don't know when, but I believe it was definitely early settlers brought over camels because, you know, they live in the desert anyway, so they should probably be able to deal with Australia.
They can acclimate.
They're gonna do a better job than a horse is gonna do.
Oh, for sure.
But we have a lot of animals here that a lot of people may not even realize. Like we have a big deer population as well.
Deer?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize till like 5 or 10 years ago either. But like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did some like some volunteer work with like a what do you call it? Like a nature survey place. And my job there was to look at the trail camera photos and identify what animals were in the photo. This is before we had like, really easy machine learning stuff that automatically does this. So my job for an entire week was to go through tens of thousands of pictures of trail cameras and spot what was in it and number down how many animals there were.
You were the machine algorithm.
It got really fun when you ran into a picture of birds and it was a flock of birds. You're like, how many birds are in the photo? I don't know, like 70 or so, I guess. But a lot of the photos just like next. Like, it'll be like the wind blows and it sets off a trail camera, things like that.
Gotcha.
But through that, I found out we have a bunch of deer apparently. We also have a bunch of pigs, but a lot of places have a lot of pigs. But
I wouldn't have known
that. Actually, do you know how many kangaroos we have? Because this is always a fun one that people are not sure about.
Like you're looking for a number?
Yeah, so like
a guesstimate. Okay.
Yeah, a guesstimate number.
It's in the millions.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go with 10 million kangaroos.
Okay, so the population of Australia, like human population, is Australian population is 27 million. That's of people. As of 2023, there is 42.7 million kangaroos.
Stop. Yeah, what? They outnumber 2 to 1?
Yeah, almost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's a wild stat.
There are some people that think like kangaroos are like endangered or anything like that. Like, no,
yeah, right.
No, kangaroos are actually
people
just
are
a pest.
endangered.
Like every supermarket you go to is gonna have kangaroo meat, like for like kangaroo steak, stuff like that. Also, every pet food aisle is gonna have like kangaroo biscuits, kangaroo meat. Like there is just a lot of kangaroos.
Wow, that's wild. I did not know that.
Now, koalas actually are endangered. Like that one is much, much less. There is only a few 100,000 of those because they, like pandas, only eat like a certain kind of food. Like they eat eucalyptus, and as you have like forest cut down, all that sort of stuff, like that becomes a lot more of a problem. But no, kangaroos. if I drive up to my parents' place, which is only like an hour and a half away, I will see at least 10 dead kangaroos on the side of the road.
Wow.
Minimum.
Wow. Sheesh. I didn't realize how big of a... I knew like if you start driving outside the cities, that like a lot of people, even you have those like like those bumper guards almost. I don't know how to explain it, like grills or whatever they're called, and they're meant for, I mean, because you got kangaroos hopping out in front of you all the time. So
it is really dangerous to drive like around like sunset. Like if you're going through like a rural area, you really don't want to be driving around that point, because that's the time where they are going to be moving around and they're likely going to be jumping across the roads. Like, you know how you'll see like I don't know, like a duck crossing sign or a deer crossing sign. We just have kangaroo crossing signs as well.
Kangaroo. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah.
You actually do have to be careful about those if you drive around here.
I don't doubt it. Yeah, plus you're driving on the opposite side of the road more than likely. And you got kangaroos attacking you. I mean, you can get into the desert, no problem at all. You got kangaroos everywhere. You're on the opposite side of the road. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's more animals that are ready to kill you at any point. I mean, what's the draw here?
You know, I don't really know. I honestly couldn't tell you.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, your beaches are beautiful though. That's one thing. It's absolutely splendid.
Absolutely. Well, there's I used to live in Queensland. There was a beach that was really close to where I was called Rainbow Beach. I'll see if I can find.
Yeah.
Uh, where's a good picture of it? Okay, I'm not finding good pictures of it, but a part of this beach has black sand and looks
Oh,
really, really cool. But like, yeah, Australia has. We don't really have like rocky beaches, unlike the UK seems to have a lot of. Pretty
right,
much
right.
all of our beaches are like, are like if we do have rocks, they're like big rocks that you're not. It's not a
Yeah,
beach
yeah,
at
yeah,
that point.
yeah.
It's
There's
like
stones.
yeah. Like people go there to fish, but
Yeah.
as I maybe we have a rocky beach somewhere, but I don't. I certainly don't. There's too many nice beaches here that nobody cares.
No, I could see that. I mean, everything's the beautiful, like white, fine sand. It's at least all the places I went to. I mean, it's beautiful.
Mhm.
And the only place you can see that pretty much in like the States is like the Gulf Coast. So like Florida,
Yeah.
and the Panhandle and kind of that side. If you go to the opposite side, it gets a little more coarse and darker sand.
Mhm.
And then anywhere else in the States, it's just going to be like rocks and stones
Right.
and whatnot. So definitely got that on us.
Whenever you drive, like, if you're going for like a big drive in Australia, like the most important thing, and there's a lot of people that just don't even consider it. I don't know why. They're just not very smart. The most important thing is always just have water with you. Like that's
Yeah.
such like a basic requirement, because I grew up rural as well. People who grew up in the city may not have this like mindset, but I grew up where the nearest town was a 30-minute drive away. So like you get that mentality in your head of like, make sure you always have some water with you, because there's a possibility that car breaks down. You're going to be stuck out
Yeah.
there for a while. And
Sure.
if you're somewhere, if you live in a town of like a couple thousand people, right? Like it's very unlikely that someone's going to drive by anytime soon, especially if
Right,
it's down
right.
one of like the side roads.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a little uncanny, and I don't think people realize how big Australia actually is. Like to go from, I don't know, like Brisbane to Melbourne, isn't that like a 4-hour flight or something wild?
That is a 2.5 hour flight.
Okay, 2.5 hour.
But
flight.
let me actually check the
But
distance.
the drive is like something crazy.
Yeah, it's an 18-hour drive. It's 1,776 kilometers.
What in the world? There's nowhere. I mean, that's wild.
Like I know people
don't
in
think
the
people
US will talk about like they'll like drive to the state over or something just for the weekend. Like that's not a thing you do here unless you live along the border.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's why I think that people take it a little bit for granted, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a little island, blah blah blah." You know, you can get from place to place in no time at all. But you get there and you're like, you're pretty much stuck wherever you're at. I mean, unless you want to drive for 18 hours.
There is a road. Let me see how long it is. There is a road called the Hay Plains. Let me see if I can find a really good picture of it. Yeah, here we go. This is... Actually, that's a perfect picture of it. So... there we go. So, the Hay Plains is this basically dead straight road.
Oh wow.
Let me see it. Distance. Let me see how long it is. It is... So the actual part that's referred to as the Hay Plains is only 100 kilometers, but it's 100 kilometers of just dead straight road, and there's basically nothing along the sides.
Yeah.
It is a really dangerous bit of road to drive on, because it is very, very easy to, like, just stop paying attention.
Sure. Yeah. I could see that. It's kind of pretty though.
It is. Well, yeah, it's a nice place, but once you've been driving down it for an hour.
Yeah. Also, you got to be careful. I mean, you're committed.
Mhm.
100 kilometers, what? That's 60 miles. That's 60 miles without a rest area.
Yeah.
You better have 60 miles in the tank. Oh man.
But like, there are people that there. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it myself, but there are a lot of people that do like going on long drives as well. So there are like routes like this if you want to like drive from Sydney to Adelaide and go through the Hay Plains and visit all this stuff, because there's a lot of like old mining towns as well, where like whilst a lot of it is completely empty now, but like you'll see these old like little villages that were here, and it's like these houses that were built 100 years ago, and they're all just like collapsing rock. And a lot of these places do have like plaques up that explain like, here's the family that lived there, and like here's what they did. And also here's here's the thing that a lot of people, I don't know how we got down the Australia topic. This is the last thing I don't want to say. There is an old trend that exists in Australia called big things. Here is the Wikipedia page on big things. I've talked about this before, but there is this thing where people just put up statues of just random different big things. Like the big banana is a famous one.
Yeah.
Or
what?
Like
Is
some
that
of
a prawn? What in the world is that?
Oh, which one?
There's like a prawn. There's like a shrimp or a prawn.
Yeah. An
alligator with boxing gloves.
Big boxing crocodile, the big buffalo, the big dinosaur. Where's my state? Oh, the where is my state? South Australia. So here we got the big ant. A lot of this is also like, it's sort of some of them are just like farmers who've just put a thing up in their property. Like the big ant, I believe. Actually, no, it was the big cockroach. The big cockroach is just in some guy's farm. It's just made of like old scrap metal. So it's just like this rusted metal cockroach. Some of them are like businesses that have put things up. Like the big Scotsman is on top of a building. The big rocking horse is like a tourist attraction. Oh yeah, my favorite one is the big windmill, which is just like a regular sized windmill. It's just the blades are a little bit bigger. I don't know. This is just a thing that most people have no idea exists, but
I did not. Yeah, that's fascinating.
I like that. Yeah. Here's the big cockroach. Yeah, this is the one.
Send it. Wow. I love the sign too. It's so weird.
Yeah, so that was on like the local news as well, and it's like it's on one of the it's like alongside one of the major highways. So if you want to go out that way, like you're gonna have to see it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Route 66. Here in the States. I mean, it's very, very long, but very, very similar type of vibe where it's got the weird novelty type things, huge signs, random stores that you can go into and like get random stuff. It's just so goofy, but no, that's really cool. I did not realize you had that down there.
Yeah, I guess it's the same sort of vibe, but it's a lot more spread out here. Like it's just it's a thing you'll see across the entire country. And you could just okay, I didn't realize this one existed. The big Bundaberg rum. Anyway, there you could like plan out like a journey to like go visit all of these different things, and obviously it's going to take you quite a while to do so, but
yeah.
It's still really cool that this exists.
It is. I like the penguin one.
The penguin? Which
you didn't see it on the first
first yeah. Where's that one?
It's like perfect. I don't know.
Oh, it's in a town called Penguin in Tasmania. I've never
wow,
been to
that's far.
Tasmania before. I'll have to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Let's get back onto the.
Yeah, maybe we
We
should get
got
back
just
on top.
really sidetracked there for a while.
We did. That was good though. That was fun.
You want to talk a bit about Microsoft Recall?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
what exactly about it? Because I know they also made it a hard requirement as well of I think it's like a hard dependency of the file manager now or something.
Yes. The file manager. So basically, and Chris, he's the one to really, shout out for all of this. But I was paying attention. One of his videos popped up, and he's kind of like, "Oh, this is a little strange of finding that recall's been, kind of like enabled in the background. The hooks are here, and I don't know what they're doing, but I'm gonna figure out. Let's shut this down before it gets too far, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense, and really appreciate all his work on that. I love that utility that he has for Windows. And I think he started doing a little bit more investigation and like how to get rid of it, really the back end way. So through like the command line, and he figured out that if you remove or disable, I should say, it's not really remove. You can't like just completely get it out. It's more of disabling a feature, that it would cause the like File Explorer to just crash, like be non-existent. And so for some strange reason, they have, I guess they have recall as a dependency of the file manager, which just blows my mind. Like, what was the point of that? It's kind of like the whole goofiness with the Copilot stuff, right? They're just trying to build it all into Edge, and they're trying to like make everything work together. They had a similar issue. I don't know if you remember, Brody, with Cortana. Remember Cortana?
I do.
Like on Windows 10, they had it where it would like be in the search, it was like a little search box that you can use or whatever. But if you removed it initially, it like broke, I don't know how many things in Windows. It was some crazy, it'd like leave the system unusable. It was like something insane. And I feel like they're just doing this all over again. And
I think they've done the same thing with Edge in the past as well. Or was it back with IE? There was a point where the browser, one of the ones they've had, was a hard dependency of something, some other core part of the system.
Yeah. But it's like, when are they going to stop this? They know what they're doing. They're not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, they're just, my biggest thing in one of my recent videos on it was me, going off on my soapbox a little bit, but I kind of probably titled it a little bit provocatively and just called it, it's basically time to switch to Linux, right? And not thinking that anyone's actually going to switch. That's not the point of the video. The video was really meant to show you like, hey, look at the sort of overreach, the blinding, they're just trying to put something over your eyes, so you just accept this thing, make it really hard to like delete or disable or whatever, and then you have this crazy feature running in the background taking snapshots of your computer screen. It seems so wild to me that they're able to get away with this stuff. And I'm fine with them trying to implement it, but I think they really need to be upfront with how it's implemented, how to disable it, and really just to be able to disable it and uninstall it. That's all I care about, right? And I think they've been, and like, Microsoft, this huge corporate company, of course they want to make money. They're not only pushing this at this point on us forcefully, but they keep changing the stance. Months ago when I was first researching it, it was like, I don't know how much you've been following, so if I'm rambling on, you can stop me at any
Go right ahead. We've rambled for half an hour about Australia stuff, so it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. A few months ago, we get the, okay, Recall is going to be released. This is its features, blah, blah, blah. Great, whatever. Next thing we know, okay, it's taking screenshots in the background so it can keep track of what you were doing, so it can pull it up in any context. Whatever. That's crazy. We can uninstall it. Fantastic. Then they tell us, well, you maybe will be able to uninstall it, maybe not. Then they tell us, no, you'll be able to uninstall it. They even add in the feature for uninstalling it through features. Then they go back and say that was a bug. that you weren't supposed to be able to uninstall it. We put a hook in magically. I mean, how do you screw it up? Like, that makes no sense. What developer is going to do extra development to go put it in a features panel, excuse me, to be able to disable it if that wasn't a thought? So they don't even know internally what they want to do. It's like, it feels like they're testing us. You know, they're like, okay, how much are they going to let us get away with before we actually have to implement whatever, you know, people are requiring, basically. So that's been my biggest frustration, is just watching them kind of like test this horrible feature, in my opinion, out on the masses. And then everyone's kind of like, you know, even the comment section got pretty heated with like Windows, you know, fanboys, Linux fanboys, of course, too. But it's like, oh, I don't care if they're taking screenshots, you know what I mean? It's just another, you know, another feature. I'm going to use it in this way. I'm going to do this. I'm like, that's not the point. It's the privacy for the people who don't want to use the feature that's important here.
Yeah, people always bring up the fact like, oh, like, especially when you could disable it very easily. It was like, oh, well, I'll just disable it. Like, okay, but like, what about like all of the people out there who don't, the people who don't upgrade operating systems, they upgrade computers, where they don't know how a computer works. Those are the people that are really going to be affected. Exactly.
And, you know, the whole, oh, it's only on Copilot Plus PCs. Well, that's a lie.
It was never dependent on Copilot Plus, Copilot Plus PCs. People got it running on that argument. x86 day one.
Yeah. So you're always hearing that argument, and it's like, come on. I don't know. I just feel bad for people getting things pulled over them, and it really seems like that is what's happening here. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this whole thing. I mean, I know that you've done videos on it as well.
I've not talked about it being a hard dependency. The video I did was back when it was first announced, and yeah, when I saw it, it's just an extension of what Microsoft's been doing for so long now. Whether it's like injecting ads into the system, which they've been slowly doing with like, ooh, here's your start menu ads, here's file manager ads, here's other little things here and there. Here's a pop-up that suggests you should go and get this thing. Then there's all of the like data collection stuff they started introducing back during Windows 8, and some of it would get like turned back on between updates, and like, oh yeah, that wasn't intentional, and you can turn it back off. But then sometime later down the line, they add another thing in, and this thing doesn't actually have a toggle attached to it. So if you want to go and disable it, now you have to go and do some like registry edits for it, and it's just, it gets more and more complex. And now we're getting to a point where, like, you know, machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it, is this really big hot topic. And a lot of people find it really useful. And it's very easy in a marketing presentation to gaslight people into thinking they have a problem that they never realized they had. And that's basically what recall is. But it's like, oh, well, you can take screenshots of everything you do and, like, search back through it. But it's like, okay, but if I needed to know something was there, like, if I needed to know about a website I've gone to before, I can bookmark it. If I needed to save some information, I could save it. Like, it's creating it. It's trying to solve an issue that nobody actually has. And when you deal with fanboys, like, those are the people that you're just never going to convince. Like, there's no point even trying to, like, deal with them. Like, it's the same as, like, Linux fanboys or Apple fanboys. No matter what you say, like, they have already made up their mind. You cannot reason with them because they didn't reason themselves into that position, so there's no way you're reasoning them out of that position. But for the normal people who see it and they're like, maybe have some concerns about data security, like, those people you can actually have a discussion with and make them aware of what's actually going on here, and hopefully put them in a position where they can actually be safe. I think the real problem, though, isn't necessarily keeping your own data safe. It's when you're handling other people's data, because, they're not going out of their way to filter out applications that don't use DRM systems. So if you're having a private chat with someone and they don't have the system in place in the application, that private chat is now part of the database. And while they're not collecting it, I don't trust, especially with the way it was being handled initially, that data is going to be safe locally, because people are exfiltrating it literally on the day it came out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the all good points and very well thought out, because I also agree with you on everything there, and like you said, you're trusting them with this data that's already been shown to easily be hacked and leaked, because I mean they were storing, I believe it was in an SQLite database. I don't even think it was encrypted, and everything, all the information was located in it. It's like, well, why do you think they're going to get it right for production? They're screwing it up on day one. So it's like everything is kind of an afterthought, and that's the biggest problem here. I think I have everything is an afterthought, and they're pushing it on us. It's mind blowing. I just haven't seen this scale of just simply trying to force or push everyone into something like you said. I don't think we even really need. I really have struggled to find a context for which I would need it. Sure, I forget files occasionally. I go and find, use the find tool or grep. And I even install it on my own Windows system. Like I'll use Sigwin, for example, or, whatever to get me those tools. But it's really, it's just rough to watch. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you remember, but the watering down of the local administrator on Windows. So if today you go and buy a copy of Windows, Windows 11, and you install it on your computer, it is almost impossible to create a local user account.
Right.
Because they force you to log in with their cloud crap and with whatever Hotmail, Outlook, whatever they're using nowadays, Office, just to get you into that cloud ecosystem, so they can, easily harvest data, right? Like, let's be straight here. What else are they doing with it?
Yeah, I think now you have to run some console command to skip past it or some ridiculous thing.
Yes. It's like, come on. And I feel like this is the same approach. They're watering this down as much as they can so that people are like, oh yeah, I can drink that, Kool-Aid. And guess what? It's cyanide.
How much cyanide do you have to have for someone to notice it? That's where we're at.
We'll see. I'm hoping this is just another failure. Let's just put it that way. Let's just hope it that way.
I don't know. They've put so much marketing behind this, and they have the Copilot PCs as well. I don't think this one's just gonna... This is just going to go away. I imagine if it does, it's going to come back rebranded, or it's in some other form. It's not going to be called Recall. It's going to be it's going to be some core part of the search system, right? It's going to be oh, now you can search back through the history of your entire PC. And it's the exact same feature. It's just not its own dedicated thing anymore.
Yeah. I love the name Recalled too. All the memes, Total Recall, just cracked me up from the beginning.
Yeah. This I haven't used Windows since Windows 10. I have no interest in using it in anytime soon.
Well, I'm happy for you, because if it wasn't for work, I think I'd be the same, but. Yeah, we're just not caught up on the CAD right. and the other stupid, proprietary software that's never going to be released on Linux.
Right, that's understandable. Yeah,
that's really it, though.
So one more thing you did want to talk about is Odyssey.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wanted your opinion and your experience with Odyssey, because at the beginning of things, it sounded like a great idea, and it's a good. Here's what I personally use it for: backup, right? What's really nice about Odyssey, and I'm not sure if everyone's aware, probably not, but first off, Odyssey is just like supposed to be a decentralized video sharing platform. It's built on a blockchain. What was that?
Supposed to be, but there's
supposed to be. Yeah,
there's like one main instance of it.
Yeah, and it's built on some sort of a blockchain protocol, blah blah blah, right? All this fun stuff that they were touting at the beginning. We were able to use or gain some sort of a coin, Libri, in order to, host our videos there, and that's kind of how creators are supposed to get paid. So they had a cool platform, an idea, and whatnot. And over the years, it's had its ups and downs, to be honest. I mean, I feel like it's no bigger than it was, a couple of years ago.
I would say it's smaller.
Yeah, I would probably say the same thing at this point. But it's a good storage system. I mean, it has this really unique feature where it's like, it just ports your video right over. I mean, you don't have to do anything. It just shows up, So in case anything happens with YouTube or they start deciding to delete videos or whatnot, you have a backup copy. Of course, we all probably have our local copies and whatnot, but it's a nice secondary tool. And that's what I've been using it for over the last few years. And short of that, I mean, I don't know what your experience is with kind of like the community and stuff over there either, but it's a little bit of a mess at this point, in my opinion. And I've been debating on just completely deleting it.
Well, where I first started getting, I guess, worries about the platform is when the whole FTC stuff happened with the library token, where they're and this made sense why they were so weird about how they talked about it initially, because from the start they were never calling the library token like a payment system or anything. They were calling it like a gift, and we were gifting the creators on the platform, and then finding out about the lawsuit, where the FTC was like, hey, you guys are like treating this like a security, but it's not, and this has happened to a bunch of crypto tokens, like Ripple had the same thing happen to them. And I think the issue is it was being treated like an investment, but whatever. Lawsuit.
Yeah, security.
Yeah. So when that happened and then it got pulled from basically every crypto exchange, it's like, well, the token that was on this platform is now literally worthless. There's no sales of it. There's like a couple of little crypto exchanges that still trade it, but there's no market volume. The value it had is gone and is never going to come back, because crypto tokens don't come back. They die and they are dead. I've not heard of a single one that has ever fallen just at that much and ever actually come back. And then you had the split of library and Odyssey. Odyssey became its own separate thing, separate from library. And okay, well now it's just another video platform that has this token that's worthless. It's why am I still here? I still upload it because it's just automatically done, but besides that, I just don't even acknowledge the platform exists. I've gone there once over the past year, maybe.
Yeah. See, it's kind of how I have it being treated as well. I mean, I'll occasionally go over there just kind of look over the comments a little bit and heart one or whatever, and but short of that, yeah. And I just wanted your opinion on it a little bit, just to kind of get your experience on it, because there's not a lot of us over there. I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, you're probably, I don't know how many subscribers or whatever you got over there, followers, I guess they call them, but it's pretty barren. I mean, it's even big people over there don't see a lot.
I have 32k subs over there.
32k. Okay, yeah, you got quite a bit more than me. I think I got 1,500 or something.
Oh, I started very early on when the platform first began, and back then there was this is another thing that's kind of a bit weird. There was a incentive to go around and subscribe to people. So you saw a lot of those early adopters back when, like, it was the Linux channels on there were me, Mental Outlaw, Lunduke, and maybe like one other person. Maybe Chris had already started an account over there. But there was a point where like my account was in like the top, I think I was in like the top 20 subscribed channels on the platform.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Just because there was like early on, like, you know, there was so little content there. Like if you were pushing the platform and there was the incentive to sub, like those early ones just popped way high up.
Yeah, I still think that's the case. But there's really nothing else out there that.
Well, I think a lot of the people that made Odyssey accounts, like, there's still a lot of people in the Linux space that have them, but I don't know how many people even acknowledge they still have them, even remember they still have them, and bother to do anything with them.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good idea. It just wasn't followed through correctly. It's sad because I mean I thought it was a pretty neat platform for you know how they were approaching things, quite honestly, in the beginning, but I feel like just over the last few years it's become I don't know, it's like no direction. That's what it feels like. There's just like no direction for it. It's just something that exists out there that is a great place to back stuff up, and I kind of feel like I wish it was better. I wish it could be better, you know. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do wish... Well, what I wish is there was just more competition in the video space. But much like... The video space is much like the social media space, where you need to hit a critical mass, because why would you use the video platform that doesn't have the content you watch? But why would somebody go and upload to a platform where people are not watching content?
Yeah.
Like, this is how I feel about... Blue Sky right now. I don't know if you pay any attention to what happens in like the social media part of stuff.
Not really.
Okay, so on Twitter they announced they're going to change the way that blocks work, and they're not going to be blocks anymore. They're going to be mutes. So a lot of people are going from Twitter over to Blue Sky, which is the platform that the original founder of Twitter went and made after leaving Twitter, and. It's getting really popular, but the same thing happened a few months back with Mastodon, and the same thing has happened with Threads as well. But you need to get a lot of people over there to really... Like, you might have a small user base, but you need to get a lot of people there to convince more people to join, because, you know, network effect, right? Like, you want... if you're going to post somewhere, you want people to see the post. Now, I don't really care, because I basically just use it for like video announcements and stuff, so I can make an account and everything and just like dump posts everywhere. Like, that's fine for me. It takes an extra 10 seconds, but for the actual like users of the platform, you really need it to, you know, expand to a point, and that's the problem that Odyssey's had, that's the problem that BitChute's had, it's the problem that any of these video platforms are going to have when it comes to competing with YouTube, because YouTube is synonymous with online video at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild.
It is, but hey, it is what it is.
It is, yeah. We're not going to change it.
No.
I am grateful for the opportunities that we get with all of our communities, right? Like, I mean, 10, 15 years, let's say 15 years ago, would you be able to say, you know, confidently or in your wildest dreams that you'd be able to, you know, reach such a vast community, so many interested people, and such a niche of such a niche interest, which, you know, is Linux. and
I had a YouTube channel back then. No, the answer is no.
Yeah, it's such a wild. It has its drawbacks, but it also has, you know, wonderful things that I think a lot of us take you know, for granted a little bit. You know, being able to you know do these types of videos and talking about you know, Linux and talk to our communities and get them ready to make the switch or to learn something new or all this fun stuff that we get to share with all sorts of people all over the world. It's quite fascinating where we've come in the last 15 years, and I gotta say it's been pretty cool.
Well, on that note, on that positive note, I think we should end off the show there. So
Perfect.
Let people know where they can find you.
Only place is on YouTube. SavvyNik, just type it in, SavvyNik, and you'll find me on YouTube. I do Linux content for the most part. Sometimes I'll throw a little bit of engineering, software development. That's really it. That's my corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your channel links are very bare compared to a lot of people's. Nothing else you want to mention?
No, Brody, thanks so much for your time and all this effort that you put in. We really enjoy your content here in the Linux community. I can definitely say so myself. I watch your videos as well. So thanks again for everything, and thanks for this opportunity to talk to you, and hopefully catch you in another one.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to have you on. So I'm going to do my outro, and then we can sign off. Right. So if you want to see my main channel, that is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. Go check that out. I've got the gaming channel, Brody on Games. I stream on YouTube and Twitch. I don't know what I'll be playing there. Probably still Wukong. Maybe Kingdom Hearts 3 in the other slot. So go check that out. I've got a React channel as well, Brody Robertson Reacts, where I just upload clips from the stream. If you want to see just clips, go check that out as well. If you're watching the audio, if you're listening to the audio version of this, you can find the video version on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. If you would like to find the audio version, it is on basically every podcast platform, Tech Over Tea. Put it in your favorite app. There is an RSS feed, and yeah, you're good to go. I will give you the final word. What do you want to say?
Thanks for watching.